Napa auto parts stores made illegal deductions from the employees' pay at 6 locations for store damage, cash register shortages, and uniforms.
Oh, no. Yeah. No. Come on now. You can't do that.
Another regular segment that we have been doing is Boss Watch, because every night, if you look on the local news, you're going to see some poor or working person accused, alleged, that's when these mugshots are taken. They've not been convicted of anything, of petty theft, of shoplifting, of, all sorts of things. But the fact of the matter is that bosses commit just as many, or in fact more crimes than working people, but you don't see their mugshots. So we want to do what little we can to rectify that. Just a couple of really quick statistics. Wage theft accounts for more stolen property than all other property crime combined in the United States. In Alabama, the homicide rate is 6.2 per 100,000, and the workforce death rate is 5.5 per 100,000. You are just as likely to die on the job in the state of Alabama as you are to be murdered, but our news does not reflect that. So we're trying to do what we can. Let's start off in Jacksonville, Florida, where the U.S. Department of Labor investigation finds that Jacksonville psychiatric treatment facilities failed to keep workers safe and follow safety procedures. This came out on July the 25th. OSHA cited United Health Services of Delaware Incorporated, which ran facilities in Florida, after a patient attacked a worker. A federal workplace safety investigation found a Jacksonville psychiatric health and substance disorder facility did not follow safety procedures, leaving workers vulnerable to injuries, including one who a patient reportedly kicked in the face. The U.S. Department of Labor's Occupational Safety and Health Administration learned a registered nurse employed by UHS of Delaware Incorporated and TBJ Behavioral Center LLC, which operated as River Point Behavioral Health. It's never a good sign when you've got all of these names, this is operated by this person, which is affiliated with this LLC. That's just never a good sign. A registered nurse was writing reports in January of 2023 when a patient entered the staff-only workspace. The patient then allegedly punched and kicked the nurse in the face and head, causing the employee to suffer several injuries, including a loss of consciousness and lacerations. This is a very, very serious injury here. The OSHA Area Office Director Scott Tisdale in Jacksonville, Florida, said, "Our investigation found that Riverpoint Behavioral Health failed to address their employees' safety concerns in a timely manner. No one should have to go to work daily fearing for their lives and physical well-being." And so, after an investigation, OSHA issued the organization a citation for a serious violation for its failure to provide a workplace free from recognized health and safety hazards, which caused or were likely to cause serious physical harm, and the agency proposed $15,625 in fines. And just on background about this organization, since 2017, OSHA has investigated 3 Florida facilities affiliated with UHS of Delaware Incorporated after similar complaints about exposure to workplace violence. Riverpoint Behavioral Health employs about 182 workers in Jacksonville and finances patient care in part by federal insurance plans like Medicare and TRICARE. UHS of Delaware Incorporated is affiliated with UHS Inc., which is one of the nation's largest hospital and healthcare services systems, with 400 acute care hospitals, behavioral health facilities, and ambulatory centers in the United States, Puerto Rico, and the UK. The company's got 15 business days from receipt of their citations to comply, to request an informal conference with OSHA, or to contest the findings. Heading over to South Carolina on July the 20th, the Department of Labor recovered $66,000 in back wages for 20 workers after finding that overtime and minimum wage violations at 6 Napa auto parts locations. The investigation found that Bellinger Parts Group Incorporated, that operates as Napa Auto Parts stores, made illegal deductions from the employees' pay at 6 South Carolina locations for store damage, cash register shortages, and uniforms.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Come on now. You can't do that. You can't deduct.
That's
No.
illegal. And these deductions even caused some workers' pay to fall below the $7.25 an hour minimum wage.
That's just low down.
That was set by the Federal Labor Standards Act. So really bad stuff here from the Bellinger Parts Group. They also failed to pay non-exempt salary counter salespeople and delivery drivers overtime for hours worked over 40 in a work week. Investigators also learned that the employer did not include non-discretionary sales bonuses in some employees' regular rate when calculating correct overtime rates, causing the organization to pay overtime premiums at rates lower than what is required by law. The back wages were recovered in the amount of $66,322 for 20 employees. So really wild stuff there. Literally stealing from their paychecks and not paying overtime, and then paying less than the overtime they earned. Really crazy stuff. Heading a little bit inland in Fairfax, Virginia, on July the 18th, a court required Virginia home care provider and owners to pay about, get this, $1.6 million in back wages and liquidated damages to 202 employees willfully denied overtime. And see, this is the thing that I'm talking about, right? These people stole. They stole almost $1 million from their employees. But they're not going to get arrested. You're not going to see their mugshots on the news. But if you get a fella goes into the dollar store and takes some deodorant, right? You're going to see his face on the news. You're going to see her face on the news, but you're not going to see these people on the news.
No, you can definitely see my cousin's face on the news.
Yeah.
For way less than this. This is insane, man.
Yeah. Every week, stuff like this comes out. Every single week. So the First Adult and Pediatrics Healthcare Services must also pay $48,000 in penalties for the violations. A federal court has directed a Fairfax home care agency and its owners to pay more than $1.6 million in back wages and liquidated damages to 202 home health aides in a consent judgment obtained by the United States Department of Labor. This action by the U.S. District Court of the Eastern District of Virginia follows an investigation of the company by the department's Wage and Hour Division that the company and that found the company and its owners, Carolyn Brandt Taylor and Kafumdi Josephine Okacha, willfully denied the affected workers' overtime wages by paying them straight time rates for all hours worked, including hours over 40 in a work week. The investigators also learned that the employers did not even keep required payroll records, which is also a violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And despite...
Well, Jacob, you don't keep records of your own misdeeds, right?
That's the thing. But despite the division's findings, the company and Bryant Taylor and Okacha, they refused to pay back wages and damages that were owed to the workers. In September of 2022, the department's office of the regional solicitor filed suit to recover the monies owed. So, right... The Department of Labor said, hey, you've stolen money from people. You got to pay it back, okay? And they just said no. They just said no. And in September of 2022, so this is almost a year ago now that the Department of Labor filed suit to get this because they wouldn't willingly comply with orders from the federal government.
That's pretty wild.
The court's judgment required the employees to pay $834,000 in back wages and an equal amount in liquidated damages to the affected workers. They must also pay $48,000 in civil money penalty to the department for their intentional violations. And here's this as well. They can't violate the law in the future. I'm not sure how effective that order is going to be, but we'll see, I guess. Heading back down to Florida, in Sebastian on July the 21st, the EEOC released a press release saying that Corp Incorporated must pay $50,000 to settle a discrimination lawsuit. This is because the fast food restaurant franchise did not provide interpreters to applicants and employees, ASL interpreters. Corp is a fast food restaurant franchise operating 7 restaurants in Indian River and Brevard counties. They are going to be paying $50,000 and provide American Sign Language interpreters to applicants and employees upon request for interviews, orientations, trainings, and performance reviews to settle a disability discrimination lawsuit brought by the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the federal agency announced on July the 21st. And so this is, just in case you think this is being too much, right? It's not that they've got to hire an ASL interpreter to follow these people around the entire time. If their disability is to an extent that they just can't perform the job, the Equal Employment and Opportunity Commission does not require you to hire them for that job. But they do require you to make reasonable accommodations. And a reasonable accommodation for somebody that is hard of hearing is an American Sign Language interpreter for things like this, like interviews, orientations, trainings, and performance reviews, right? Those are not, you're not got an ASL person following them around all the time. These are just critical elements where you are able to apply for the job, where you're being rated, stuff like this. So it's absolutely doable to have that kind of thing for people on request. And it's the law, actually, to do that. According to the EEOC suit, an applicant advised Corp's hiring and training manager that she was hard of hearing and asked for an ASL interpreter for her orientation with the company. The manager responded by stating that Corp does not provide ASL interpreters, which made it impossible for the applicant to attend the orientation and start her job. Such alleged conduct violates the Americans with Disability Act, which prohibits discrimination based on a disability. The EEOC filed suit in U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, West Palm Beach Division, after first attempting to reach a pre-litigation settlement through its conciliation process. In addition to the monetary relief, the 3-year consent decree requires Corp to update its job postings and hiring advertisements, revise its anti-discrimination policies, post a notice regarding this lawsuit, and report on the handling of requests for reasonable accommodations. Corp will also provide live training to owners, managers, and human resources personnel on the Americans with Disabilities Act, as well as training designed specifically to raise awareness about issues affecting the deaf community and dispelling stereotypes associated with hiring deaf or hard of hearing individuals. Finally, Corp will conduct an internal audit to identify potential obstacles and to make the workplace more accessible to deaf and hard of hearing applicants. The EEOC Miami District Director Evangeline Hawthorne said that Corp should be commended for agreeing to a consent decree early in this litigation. This settlement includes provisions that ensure deaf and hard of hearing applicants and employees will have the benefit of ASL interpreters going forward, and we appreciate Corp's commitment to the improvement.
A little late, but okay.
Right.
Being diplomatic there.
Right, they clearly are. Yeah, they're just glad they settled. I understand.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
In Houston, Texas on July the 17th, Lion Elastomers pays $175,000 to settle an EEOC disability discrimination lawsuit, settling federal charges that the company subjected job applicants to disability discrimination because of perceived back impairments. The background on this is that Lion Elastomers is a manufacturing plant in Port Neches, Texas, and they agreed to pay $175,000 and provide other relief pursuant to a consent decree entered by a federal district court on July the 7th, resolving a disability discrimination lawsuit filed by the EEOC. The complaint alleged that the company denied employment to a class of individuals it unlawfully regarded as disabled. According to the lawsuit, after being offered packing operator / materials handler positions, The class member applicants were required to undergo pre-employment, medical, and physical examinations. The EEOC charged that Lyon then unlawfully rescinded the class members' job offers based on the company's perception that the class members had back impairments and were unable to lift heavy objects. Additionally, the suit alleged that Lyon violated federal regulations by failing to maintain personnel records related to its hiring and termination decisions. The federal agency alleged that such conduct violated the Americans with Disabilities Act, which prohibits employers from discriminating against applicants and employees because of their actual, perceived, or record of disability. In addition to the monetary relief, the 30-month consent decree settling the suit requires Lyon to revise its anti-discrimination policies and distribute them to its employees and provide its managers and human resources personnel specialized training on the Americans with Disabilities Act, provisions against disability discrimination, and their legal obligation to prevent, address, and remedy disability discrimination. The decree also requires Lyon to post a discrimination notice at its Port Neches facility, comply with record-keeping and reporting requirements of the ADA, and submit periodic compliance reports to the EEOC. This lawsuit should remind employers that the ADA protects applicants as well as employees from disability discrimination, said Rudy Sestaita, regional attorney for the EEOC's Houston District Office. Final story here for Boss Watch. In Louisiana and Texas on July the 25th, the Department of Labor announced that they found McDonald's franchisees allowing minors to work longer and later than the law permits, as well as operate dangerous equipment. The investigations identify violations in 2 states affecting 83 minors at 16 locations. Federal investigations at 16 McDonald's franchises in Louisiana and Texas have found child labor violations affecting 83 minors. And in Louisiana, the investigators with the department's Wage and Hour Division discovered that CLB Investments in Metairie employed 72 workers, 14 and 15-year-olds, to work longer and later than the law permits at 12 restaurants in Kenner, Jefferson, Metairie, and New Orleans. The division determined that the employer allowed 3 children to operate a manual deep fryer, which is a task prohibited for employees under 16. The department assessed CLB Investments with $56,106 in civil money penalties for violations found at these 12 locations, one of which is now closed. The division also found similar violations at 4 McDonald's locations operated in Texas by Merwin & Son, LLC, in Cedar Park, Georgetown, and Leander. Investigators found that the company employed 10 minors, 14 to 15 years old, to work longer and later than permitted. They also learned that the employer allowed 7 children to perform jobs prohibited or considered hazardous for young workers. Specifically, the employer allowed all 7 to operate a manual deep fryer and oven, and 2 of the 7 to also use a trash compactor. The department also assessed Merwin & Son with $21,466 in civil money penalties for its violations. These findings follow a May 2023 announcement of federal investigations that found child labor violations by 3 McDonald's franchise operators in Kentucky, which involved more than 300 children at 62 locations in 4 states. So this is something that is happening across McDonald's franchises across the country.
We got to protect the kids, y'all.
Yep.
Right. I feel like that's such a big thing right now. Everybody's talking about protecting kids. And that's why it's a great thing that you guys are doing this, because I have not been hearing any of this on the news whatsoever.
Right. And like I said, this is all just stuff from the last week and a half.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff comes out on the Department of Labor every single day.
Yeah.
And this is just from the South, right?
Yeah. It's insane. Like, half the time I'm sitting back, I'm just in awe over here because I'm like, when did this happen? Nobody told me anything. Like, that stat that you said at the very beginning of the segment where you're saying the homicide rate in Alabama is, what was
6.2.
6.2. But you're like 5.5. It's you could die on the job.
Yeah. 6.2 per 100,000 people die by homicide in Alabama every year, and 5.5 per 100,000 die in Alabama on the job.
That's insane. I feel like if people knew that it would just flip let's take something like the first 48 hours. If you watch a show like that, you go, wow, Birmingham, I don't want to go there. I'm going to get murdered. Well, it turns out you don't want to go to work because you might die.
Exactly. And that stat, 5.5 per 100,000, I found that from the AFL-CIO's Death on the Job report that came out back in April. They do that every year.
Yeah.
And it showed that our death rate on the job is the 4th highest in the country, which is one of the reasons that CNBC ranked Alabama as the 4th worst place to live and work. Wow. And the Council of Bosses, also known as the Business Council of Alabama, came out with an op-ed. The president of the organization came out with an op-ed in the Alabama Political Reporter last week, really protesting too much, I think, about that, about that CNBC thing. She was talking about, I mean, the funny thing is that she didn't cite any statistics about, like, how it's good to work in Alabama or anything like that. She just said, oh, we've got so much good values and all of this good stuff. And another funny thing about her is that she's ostensibly a Democrat. She, that's what a lot of the Republicans, when she became president of the Business Council of Alabama, they were making a bunch of noises about, oh no, she's a Democrat. She's not going to be good for business interests. Yeah. And well, this op-ed coming out after the CNBC, she is perfectly comfortable with screwing over workers just as much as any Republican. So, yeah, really, really crazy stuff. Here's some more background on the child labor stuff. In fiscal year 2022, the division found that child labor violations involving 3,876 children nationwide, which is an increase of more than 60% since 2018. All of this also comes amid pushes across the country by Republican state legislatures to loosen child labor laws, including in one state attempting to allow children to go back into the coal mines.
What?
Yes, that's real.
Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah.
I think that was Iowa. Was that Iowa, Adam?
Yeah, Iowa, I know, has been really trying to loosen up child labor laws. Arkansas has loosened up theirs to some extent. I think we've talked about that, where they did away with parental consent being required.
What?
Which is a little scary. What? I can envision lots of bad scenarios playing out that way. Yeah. All right, I think there's TV shows that start out that way. So anyway, it is a little bit scary. Like we've said before, we thought we won on the child labor issue 100 years ago. We thought okay, that's done, that's squashed, check that off the list. But here we are in 2023 dealing with child labor just, running rampant all over our country.
That is insane.
Yeah. That's no other way to describe it. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.